The second army of the world. This is what Russians like to believe. The army is second army in the world. So for others to believe in this just as well, the Russian military political leadership has taken an immense effort indeed, spent loads of time and resources. Putin constantly repeats the mantra of invincibility and power of the Russian army.
Our army is modern, combat ready, as they now say, polite but formidable. Here it is, our strike force. There it is. What a beauty. Today we went to pick up the guys. Yeah, we collected their corpses.
And Putin's heroic army, after its large-scale invasion of Ukraine, has become the heroes indeed, the heroes of jokes and internet memes. And still, there are many believers in Russia's invincibility out there in the world. We know why, because Russian propaganda is powerful and well-working tool indeed, a tool of the Kremlin. But what about Russian battle power? Well, let's figure that out. Over the almost 4 years of Russian invasion, Ukrainian soil has become well fertilized by hundreds of thousands of dead Russians. In October of this year alone, more than 25,000 more Russian soldiers choose Ukraine as their deathbed. Could have been a good commercial for Russian mobilization campaign.
Is there maybe a grenade under him? No, something's just stretched tight from the bloating. Mushrooms have already started growing on the corpse.
A much smaller number, though, were lucky enough to be captured by Ukrainian armed forces. Happy survivors willingly give interviews complaining about their previous employer, the poor conditions of work, the negligence, indifference and cruelty of their ex-bosses, who forced them into what is called meat wave assaults, as well as the threats of being treated badly by their own comrades in case of refusal. Treated badly in Russian means shot dead.
They just abandoned us. No water, no food, nothing at all. Our own command. How did our own treat us? From the 4th to the 10th of the month, they issued 2 Snickers bars for 2 men total. When it rains, the guys dig little wells in the ground so rainwater collects, and they drink that. Otherwise, they drink their own urine. They told us that if anyone tries to retreat, there are barrier troops behind us who shoot everyone running back. That's exactly why I surrendered to the Ukrainians. I didn't run backwards so my own side wouldn't kill me. Not for any amount of money, not even for freedom. Not even on a private contract would I go back.
Meet Oleg is a former inmate. Who he is. So not to get to the jail again, he joined the Kremlin's army, the one he thought is second in the world. There are many such Olegs in Russian army. We will dive deeper into the topic of mass forced recruitment of convicts in our future episodes. But now, today, we will talk about those Russians joining Russian army voluntarily, coming not from penitentiaries, but rather from completely decent civilian and peaceful professions. They become murderers in exchange for money and comfort, those lucrative for Russia, of course. Rate of payments, social benefits and bonuses is what Putin offers to his walking dead for serving him. After signing the contract, of course, despite all the recruiters' promises of manna from heaven and serving in the rear, Russian newborn not for long servicemen end up in hell and on the very front line. And there we go.
You lot go over there. Head into the forest now, dig yourselves in, and just sit tight. Rest up, treat your wounds, get yourselves back in shape. Everything will be fine. But they give us no water, no food, nothing. People sit hungry for 2 or 3 days straight. When we finally got there, wounded guys were already sitting around, some for a whole week. One guy's heel was practically gone, completely rotten with gangrene, crawling with maggots, and they still won't evacuate him. They keep them there and send them on combat missions anyway. It's absolute hell.
You just heard Edward, a taxi driver from Leningrad. Yes, Leningrad, not St. Petersburg, as obviously neither Edward nor the whole city of Leningrad never actually left the Soviet paradigm to earn to be called St. Petersburg, which brings us back to Edward, the taxi driver, who complains that he was deflorated from his illusions. wounded on his first combat mission. Neither he nor his comrades received any medical attention. On contrary, they were forced into assault, simply injected with painkillers, and that's it. Well, I don't know what were Edward's expectations, but my wild guess is when signing the contract in his native Leningrad, Edward could have hardly imagined even close what he would be forced to go through when in the ranks of the world's second army.
The smarter ones try to survive however they can. They told me there's a river about 500 meters from that position, so the cleverer guys sneak over there quietly to fetch water from the river, or when it rains they dig little wells to collect rainwater. Otherwise, they just drink their own piss.
Oh, come on, Edward, you're the great Russian. No one can defeat you, right? And behind those who refuse to drink urine and become a cannon fodder stand those Soviet KGB Times officers, FSB men in green with machine guns in their hands.
They told us that if anyone tries to retreat, there are barrier troops behind us who shoot everyone running back. That's exactly why I surrendered to the Ukrainians. I didn't run backwards so my own side wouldn't kill me.
One can, and maybe even should, doubt the sincerity of the Russian prisoners of war and the reliability of their words describing world's second army. Good. Just invoke critical thinking and look for sources and footages on the internet on them themselves, Russian soldiers from the temporarily occupied Ukrainian land. Listen to what they say. Look into what they show, and then suit yourself if that is confirming the words of Russian prisoners of war. Well, here is something for starters.
We've been marching non-stop for 2 days now. We're exhausted beyond words. There are dead bodies everywhere along the road, torn in half, pieces scattered. They just dump them into pits. Black body bags lying next to a hole. They toss them in like garbage. That's the kind of respect our command shows its own soldiers. And then, those guys are simply listed as missing in action. And this is how we get drinking water. We find a muddy puddle in the trench, scoop it up with our helmets. Look how many leeches are swimming in it.
I mean, how in the world could it happen that the soldiers of the world's second army are forced to drink their own urine and water from puddles teeming with leeches, to be blocked in trenches for weeks, left completely without food, medical care, and the only thing delivered in abundance seems to be the constant fear of those of their own kin that are gonna shoot you in the back. It pretty much seems that Russia finally believed an own handcrafted myth of their own invincibility, nobility, greatness, and whatever, and the power of the second in the world army. It seems that Russian power is based on hundreds of thousands of Russians who perish in meat assault in their first ever combat encounters, sometimes falling by the hands of their own people who shoot them in their names.
When we were kids, they taught us history lessons about how evil the Germans were, the Third Reich, how they tortured and tormented people. What we have now is no better. Actually, it's not better at all. It might even be worse.
So, is that the army that someone expects to defeat the Ukrainian army? Motivated by the dreadful necessity, by what we have seen in Bucha and Mariupol, by the very absence of any other choice but sheer survival? Is that the Russian army you expect to go to war against NATO and the US and their allies in Europe? Well, yes, they will, if we allow them. They will try. I can hear already asking, but can Ukraine defeat the second in the world army or not? We've been doing exactly that. That's the answer. Winning for 4 years in a row. While Russia promised to have us on our knees in 3 days, in 4 years we're still here. And ever since we have been doing that, winning every day on the battlefield, even if we are not always victorious in every fight, we're winning the war with the very fact of our existence. And paradoxically, we are even helped in this by Russian commanders who multiply chaos, arbitrariness, and have brought the value of life of their subordinates not just to a new low, no, but even below that, to negative value. There are a lot of them, yes, but hey, look at us. They can be defeated. Just keep on standing with Ukraine and watch it happening. While it is much more difficult to defeat that myth planted in Russian people's minds, that their second in the world army is actually just second-hand one.